Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to the A24 project here on the Nerd Party Network. I'm Lee Hutchison, and Dallas King and I make our way through the A24 filmography and along the way bring you interviews with the talent involved in front of and behind the camera. As we sadly wait for Marcel the Shell with shoes on to arrive in the UK, we bring you an interview with Sarah Twomey, who plays Police Officer Frieda in Alex Garland's latest movie, Men. In the aftermath of a personal tragedy, Harper retreats alone to the beautiful English countryside, hoping to find a place to heal. But someone, or something, from the surrounding woods appears to be stalking her, and Frieda is called upon to help Harper. Thanks so much to Sarah for joining me, and I hope you too will enjoy this interview. What inspired you to pursue a career in acting, Sarah?
Well, actually, I started out as a ballet dancer. Ballet was my thing completely. And that was like what my mum, she wasn't professional, but she did it when she was younger. And so up until I was honestly about 19, that was just what I did. And I didn't do any acting at all. But now looking back, I can kind of see that I actually only sort of did well in that because I was good at acting. And so, yeah, I did all this ballet and then I got injured. And so I couldn't go to ballet school at 16 and it sort of petered out. And I went to uni instead after A-levels. And that's really when I started properly getting into acting. And I guess, I don't know what inspired me exactly. I think it was just another avenue because I couldn't pursue the ballet avenue, but I knew that I just absolutely loved sort of performing and showing off really. Even for when I was little, like real major show off, basically. So it was, I knew I just wanted to do something in the performing arts. And actually, it's not strictly true because I did used to do school plays and that type of thing. And I was very close to my GCSE drama teacher and things like that. And even up until very recently, he's died actually recently, but I was very close with him. And so I did love acting and I love being part of shows. And actually my career has so far largely been on the stage, which sort of shifted slightly during COVID. So I've done more screen things since COVID happened than I ever did before. But I think that kind of, the lights and the thrill of that and working in a big group of people, that I guess I've had it forever, but I just didn't channel it into acting until at uni, really.
So what was it like to go from sort of uni to turning it into career? What was that kind of journey between the two?
Well, I went to drama school. So after uni, I did English at uni, and I just spent all my energy I put it all into the Drama Society, and I used to write and direct, and I loved it. And I went to Cardiff, and it didn't when I was there offer a drama degree, but everybody who had a passion for drama, then there was a really good Drama Society. And so I just sort of thought, well, I'm going to audition for a drama school, I think. And I didn't get in the first time, but I eventually got into RADA. So I went there after uni. And that was really, I suppose, that was the big eye opener. Now I kind of laugh about it because I was so clueless starting out. I feel like I didn't know the basics even. But I was just a tiny bit older. So at least I kind of had got a good sense of myself by then. And so it was being at RADA that guided me into how I could turn it into a profession. And they were just amazing. We used to have professional development classes where they didn't just show you how you could become an actor after leaving school. It was every avenue. So we would have writers come in and talk to us, or people who'd made their own work. We had directors, we had people who'd gone on to go into design, or we even had people come in and speak to us about being unemployed, which I think was really good that they came in and spoke to us, because that's a huge part of the gig is surviving that. So it was really being at RADA, I think, that like kind of completely crystallized my desire to do it like professionally. And then of course, you do your third year shows and you try to get agents, and then it all goes from there, really.
Kind of since then, you've been in a range of film, TV shows, theatre, and shorts. What have been some of the highlights of your career so far? And for me, I couldn't help but chuckle when I was doing a bit of research into your career so far. Like classic onto IMDb, I think you feature one of the greatest bits of trivia I've ever seen associated with an actor, where it was like your character in Midwife is the 111th person to have done like some midwife scene. I've never watched the show personally, and I just thought, that's so particular. Like, who's the person like that's tracking this number? And then, I found that so incredibly bizarre. So that's definitely something I've picked up from your career so far, that obviously you've been in Call the Midwife very specifically in that kind of role. But what have been some of the highlights for you?
That's funny that you mentioned that, because so many people say to me, did you put that fact on there? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. How would I work
that? Makes you wonder, who is doing that? Like, who's tracking it, then going on to IMDb, adding it? It's truly one of life's mysteries. It captivated me in my research process.
I think Call the Midwife has some hardcore fans who know every birth number. But yeah, what would I say were the highlights? Let me have a little think. Oh, so I'm actually hearing I think I'm in my highlight at the moment, which is a weird one, but I'm just actually rehearsing and about to open. Tomorrow we've got our first preview of this amazing play, and I love being in plays, because I think it sort of relates to having a little bit of stability. So this lifestyle is so opposite to drama school. When you go to drama school, you have this family, and you've got 3 years of being like completely protected in this really creative bubble, and everybody, it's this safe space, and you do all this amazing work. And then when you leave, it's like the absolute opposite, and you can feel like, where did everyone go? And there are great swathes of sort of kind of resting, as they say, and and you can feel quite on your own. And when you get a theatre job, I feel like you get a little bit of that, almost like day job back. Like, I sometimes envy my sisters who go into their office, and I'm like, wow, you have got a lunchtime and a locker, and you've got like these colleagues who know you, and you've got banter with them. And a lot of the time doing filming jobs, if you've got only a little part, you never quite get past the nervousness or the feeling of it being your first day or your first week, because quite often you'll only do a couple of days or a week on something. So it's a feeling of like always being the temp who doesn't quite know where the lunch truck is or whatever. And I think I'm getting better. I'm getting sort of finding more of a rhythm with filming jobs. But I think so far most of my highlights have been sort of theatre things. I love being with the RSC. I've done a couple of seasons with them, and you get to go and live in Stratford, and they give you a house, which I think is amazing. So I'm like, when in my life going to have my own house? So for the duration of your stay, when you're there, you get a little cottage, and you have all your friends. It's like being back at uni, all your cast, and also there's inevitably another cast on in one of the other theatres, because it's such a huge kind of place. And so I've loved doing that every time I've done it. And I've been at the National Theatre. That was amazing, because I started out, when I left RADA, the first kind of day job that I got was on the bars at the National Theatre. And that was great, actually, because everyone said, oh, do you want to work on the bars? Like, don't you feel a bit weird? And I really was serving my ex-classmates, I really was. But I didn't hate it. I felt connected still to the industry. I felt like each day I would travel to a place where the kind of beating heart of the acting industry was. So I wasn't going, to work in a cafe somewhere far away. And then eventually I got a part in a show there. So I finished my last shift on the bars at whatever o'clock at night, and then I went to my sort of meet and greet, and that was a highlight actually, because it was such a I did that job for a couple of years, and now I'm going to go on the Olivier stage, and I'm going to not be the person tearing the tickets, and it was amazing. And it was also great because I had friends in every night, because all the bar staff, all the ticket tearers, everybody knew me, all the backstage staff, the stage door staff. I'd been coming in every day for so long, and they all sort of thought it was one for the team, because everybody working there is actors or creatives who
you can see that pathway so clearly.
Yeah, they're hoping one day that they will get to be on that. So I actually went back to watch something the other a few weeks ago. I went to watch a friend, and still some of the same, that was years ago, but still some of the same bar staff that are there, and they were still really loving, and it was just such a fun building to work in. But doing that morning where I went my same journey to work, but went in a different door and got to stand in this big rehearsal room with a huge big company of people, I was like, that's a snapshot moment,
And I suppose with theatre, you've kind of moved into film as well. When did you sort of first hear about the opportunity to star in Men?
Well, I heard about Men just through my agent, really. It was COVID, of course, and I was actually living at home. And so this is funny. My mum, she's amazing. She has had to be my taping partner. And the roles that woman has taken on, so she just stand behind the camera and read the other lines. And she's played my lesbian lover. She's played all sorts, anything that comes through the post or comes through the email. I'm like, Mum, I need you to be this other part. And so I suppose she was Jessie Buckley. And I was going up for a lot of police women. Which was funny because I even had a little outfit. So when a WPC came through, I'd be like, hold on a second, I've got the shirt and tie ready. I just put it on, and, just hanging in my wardrobe. And so it was in a kind of it was sort of another tape. And when I got it, I was so thrilled because I was like, what? I got that Alex Garland one? No way, that's amazing. Because, obviously I love Ex Machina, and I just, so it was really exciting. And it's also the first movie that I've ever been in, and I love the movies. It's really funny because growing up in Taunton, there is a theatre in Taunton called the Brew House. But it's, and not a lot of things were taught at Taunton. So I didn't grow up as a theatre goer at all. The only theatre I knew about was school plays. And so we used to go to the movies, or we still do. My dad loves the movies, and we love a franchise in my family. And, we go and see every X-Men film, every Bond film, every Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, whatever they are. And then we always make a trip of it. And so I think it was really fun that, just last week, my dad was like, come on then, we'll all go and watch Cessa in the movies. So everyone, my mum, my dad, I've got lots of sisters, not my brother, he wasn't there, but we all took up a row in the cinema and properly got into it with the popcorn, and it was so sweet of them to sort of mark the occasion for me. I think they were just all really, really excited about it, but they didn't I think my mum didn't quite know the gory nature of the and so I was just, at the end, it was so funny because I was like, for hardcore horror movie fans, this is epic, this is so amazing. For my mother, I don't know, I was so conscious of her, but she came out, she was like, oh, it was a good set. She was really I think they were just on a high, on the occasion. Yeah, it was funny.
So I'm curious as well, like you mentioned sort of like there's been a lot of police roles offered to you, and I just see that just now and I'm just hearing some sirens outside. So it's either something sending me a message here, but like what is it about you potentially that you're maybe attracting these type of roles, or is it maybe sort of kind of saying something about the kind of work that's out there at the moment?
That's so interesting, well, it's interesting because I guess you can hear from my voice, I've got sort of like a neutral accent, but of course I can quite easily slip into West Country because I grew up in Somerset, and so it's a very natural, like, just a few drinks and I'll be like rounding my R's. And
feels like you could have been in Hot Fuzz. If they make a sequel
I could have been in Hot Fuzz.
You're immediately sorted.
Exactly. And the other thing is, I think I don't wish for this to be the case always, but I think naturally more comic casting is what comes my way. I love that as well, but I do, no actor ever like wants to be pigeonholed. But so I would say funny or warm characters, and often country, kind of Somerset, or anyone with an accent. I really, really rarely use my own voice in acting, which is kind of weird. Even on stage, actually, nobody's sort of said, yeah, just stick with your voice. Everyone's always like, could you be, from Berry or something? And so I guess I guess that combination of things, and I think it's also I think this is right. It's the kind of size of the parts that you tend to go up for, and that can change throughout somebody's career. But if a lot of plots are moved along by brief appearances by police people, if you know what I mean. And so I think that there are, a lot of police roles out there which I might kind of go up for naturally because they're not the leads, but they're sort of still fun kind of character parts who are necessary to move a plot along. So I guess that's it. I don't know. I mean, it's that, and on stage I play a lot of maids, fun maids, sexy maids, every kind of maid you can think of. I've played her. It's strange.
I'm almost reminded of like Olivia Colman sometimes, like just even speaking to you just now, and just like even just sort of that brief role just reminded me of like I could almost see like a young Olivia kind of Colman there, just even in like the voice and like almost the start of that career, that she was sort of like doing a lot of those kind of funny roles, sort of like that supporting kind of character that was moving on other people's potential stories. I can almost sort of, that's the parallel I can almost see in my head.
That's what, you're not the first person to say this to me, Lee. At uni, everyone used to say, Sophie, and call me Sophie. And I was like, who's Sophie? And they're like, Sophie from Peep Show. And so obviously I watched it and I was like, oh yes, I can see. And but she's like my everything. I love her. So I'm always thrilled when people say it to me.
When you were doing your audition, did you have like kind of the full script, or did you just have this like couple of pages and like no other context to what was to come? How much did you kind of know?
Well, let me think about this. I think I literally, and this is often the way, with that kind of size of part, you will just get your sides, which is literally your bit that you need to say and any interaction you have with another character. And so, yeah, that's a tricky thing as an actor, I think, because you don't know the tone of the rest of the piece. You're literally, it's quite a lot of intuiting that you have to do. You're like, okay, I guess you have to go with your gut quite a lot. But then when I got the part, then I got to read the script, and that was lovely. And actually what was so amazing about this, which was really unexpected, was that I did get rehearsal. So for so much TV, I mean, I never expected to get to sit. I got to sit in a lovely room with Jessie, who's my friend from drama school. So that was so fun. And Alex Garland, I was like, no way. I can't believe that I got to have a rehearsal. That's such a luxury. And perhaps it's something that you can do more with a film than with a TV show that's churning out, episodes. And I don't know, maybe it's different, but to me that felt really lovely, and that we got to do that. And also it was just so fortuitous that it was Jessie, who is so lovely and is also a friend, so I didn't feel as scared as I could have done, so yeah. And I had read the whole thing, which then was really locating, because like I say, otherwise you're just sort of this thing in a big empty space. But it was, I also felt really smug, because I was like, I cannot believe I've just read the new Alex Garland movie. No one else knows. And I'm just,
What was your kind of reaction to the script and the story? Because obviously I can imagine it being such a different experience to seeing it on the big screen, but what was it like to see this story kind of brought to life in just words?
I found it so exciting, because it was, I would say that I'm really squeamish and scared of horror movies. But on the page, and actually watching it in the cinema as well, I was like, oh, I don't even know. It's not horror, like it's psychological. Like I suppose it's psychological horror, but like there was so much to it. So much going on. And I kind of, it's not your average slasher movie, if you know what I mean. There's a heck of a lot going on there. And I didn't know that Rory Kinnear was playing all the parts. So this is funny. I turned up and I knew that in my scene there was another, not pretty much like non-speaking policeman. And I thought, who's going to be that? And then it was Rory Kinnear. And I thought, oh my gosh, Rory's career's taken a bit of a dive. Like, why is he playing that part? And I had no idea. And only when I was thinking, my God, I've got a bigger part than Rory Kinnear. And then I chatted to him, obviously, and he was like, no, Sarah, I'm playing all the parts. I was like, what? You're all the parts? I didn't know. So that was a really cool twist, actually. And it just adds a whole other sort of layer to all those themes that are so relevant and so thought-provoking. So yeah, I think I love that it was a thought-provoking horror rather than a just sort of like, a gore for gore's sake type thing. So I felt really, really super proud to be part of it. And and also one of such a small cast as well. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
What was kind of like, did Alex Garland kind of tell you anything sort of about kind of the role in that sort of audition process, and what was that kind of, not the audition process, like that rehearsal period? How did sort of maybe the role kind of evolve, and what you kind of learned in that kind of process?
Yeah, it was it's funny because my sort of objective, or my job within that scene, and I guess within the film as a whole, was to be really warm and reassuring, and just kind of completely fine. So there's not really many other characters who are just completely fine. And for my character Frieda, it's just like a kind of an eye-rolling day, day on patrol. It's another blinking streaker or whatever, and of course, when you watch it in the context of the film, it's so brilliant because it's completely the classic, like, frustrating copper who isn't actually hearing the problem. It's completely ineffective. But I also love that the character is warm and kind of jolly, because in a genuine, like, there had, the main thing that Alex was saying was, there should be nothing sinister about this character. This character is absolutely of the real world. So, there's so many sort of, was that person there? Wasn't that person there? She was definitely there, and she's kind of boots on the ground, and there should be nothing threatening or sinister or dubious about her. But let me tell you, when you're nervous, that is the hardest thing to play, to be to be, oh, if they'd asked me to cry on the day, I think I could have done it, you know, but to be fine is so hard. And it's kind of funny because I really learned a lesson doing it. I was like, gosh, just that, like, to have so many people in a room and so many cameras and, you know, mics and props people and everything, and then everybody falls silent and you have to say these words and be fine. That's your only job, is just be completely fine. I was like, oh gosh, I think that is a really hard state to engender, because you feel possibly the opposite, you know, and you've got a very short window to nail it. So it was it was a very like kind of challenging in a weird way role to do that. It was fun.
I think it's interesting because, as you mentioned, like there's only just a few characters in the film, and usually perhaps in a small role like this, you think, oh, that person has just moved the plot along, but then you can almost have these, because there's so little characters, you can kind of just dive into all of them in such a way of going, well, there must be a reason Frieda's here. Like, what is she saying? What is her purpose? And as you mentioned, she's kind of this reassuring character, but then almost this, you know, what happens later, it completely changes it. Like your character's almost looks dismissive, and you know, that supportive nature that kind of reassures her, like, yeah, it's all in hand. Like this kind of small village thing, you know, it's a bit out of touch with probably what it's like in London, where it might be this bigger event. And then, you know, you kind of almost get the impression like if that happened in London, there would be sort of maybe more significance given to sort of the what the woman was kind of going through. And it's just when you sort of learn later on, oh, like he's been let loose within like a few hours, that sort of reassurance and like kind of bubbly nature sort of ends up almost feeling a bit sinister and hollow. Like your character could have almost got this character killed by sort of just being so kind of relaxed about it. It's such an interesting one to kind of just think about this kind of small role and what happens after and how it reflects on it, I think.
Yeah, I think I thought all of that at the time, and I think what I was being asked to do was not think that as the character. So as Sarah, I was thinking, this is so dismissive. Like she literally says, I think he's harmless. You know, she's like, and there's been a naked man, like, you know, if a policewoman said that to me, I would, you know, I would feel let down. And, you know, I'm sure, I think in the sequel, there should be some kind of, you know, review of the policing conduct. But I guess the whole point is that as the character, you can't think that. You can only think everything's fine. This lass is just, you know, she's just not used to the weirdos we have around here.
A southern softie.
A southern softie, exactly, yeah. And it only works, and you only get that payoff of the kind of, you know, the afterthoughts when you're kind of thinking back, if you really, in the moment, if the character really genuinely is just thinks she's doing the right thing. And so it's funny.
I think with like Frieda and obviously Rory Kinnear's officer, like along with like kind of you get like the local vicar also played by Rory Kinnear, kind of highlights these sort of like two pillars of society that continue to sort of like oppress and fail kind of women. Was that something that you kind of thought too about, sort of these very specific kind of roles we see represented in this kind of town in a way? Well, village, I guess.
I did. I think I definitely felt that with all of Rory's characters. It was like this, it's really cool. It's sort of, you know, the everyman plays, like the old kind of medieval pageants that they used to do, which is kind of very of, I suppose it's not really Green Man-y, but there's an everyman kind of through line to the film. And it, yeah, the way that you described there, the different institutions that have almost enabled the power dynamics to be what they are today. I think that's so true. You know, there's the little boy, I think, is a really great addition, because I feel like it's that thing of sort of like, if it's from the cradle, if our young men are kind of brought up in a you know, in a misogynist world, or a, you know, and then the cycle continues, you know. And so that was a really that was a really cool character to have in there as well. But it is interesting that Frieda's in there because she is not a man. She's not one of the men, but I would argue that she was not helpful in the situation. The
character, I almost drew a parallel with it when we reviewed it. We were like, the way the film has kind of landed, almost with like the Johnny Depp trial, a lot of what's been kind of going on recently. Like it felt really relevant, but like you could have said that about every week for probably the past decades and decades. Like if you drop men, it's like, God, how relevant is this? And kind of parallel I drew in my head sort of in a modern one was almost like your character almost ends up being the sort of that Cassandra Dick at the kind of Met Police, sort of like her feelings kind of regarding women, like I think was it Sarah Everard, and sort of that, at the time the person might have thought they did the right thing, but then once you start to break down all of their actions or inactions, how they've failed that woman, and how Harper ends up having people coming in to attack her and all these issues. That was the kind of character I almost drew in my head between the two.
I think that's so right. Yeah, there's always the thing in sort of horror movies, isn't there, that or these kind of thrillers and everything, like, yes, but if Frieda and the other police officer had done a good job, there'd be no movie. Or it'd be very short. So there's always that as well, but of course there's so much more to it than that. Like, I think you're absolutely right. It's this thing where actually you quite appreciate the friendly presence and the kind of reassuring like shrug, don't worry about it. But ultimately it's not helpful. Ultimately it's much more helpful if somebody takes you really seriously and even kind of not overreacts, but goes above and beyond to make sure, just in case, that everything's fine. I think that's preferable to sort of being lax about things.
What was kind of Alex Garland like as a director for your time on set and shooting your scene?
He was incredibly warm, and I would say very sensitive to the experience that I was probably having, which was a bit nervous, or a bit first day. I think I was on set for like 3 days, but he was really he let me have so many goes at it as well. That's another thing that you really don't get into telly, because of the turnaround, because of the kind of, you don't have the luxury of time. And that was so lovely, because he came over and we tried it again different ways, and it was such a lovely few days of work. It really did feel luxurious, because often you're hampered, people are kind of saying, well, that'll have to do, we've got to move on, or whatever, and that type of thing. But that really wasn't the atmosphere. It was actually pretty nurturing, I'd say, which was really nice. And of course, because I knew Jessie as well, it made it even better, because she's so brilliant to act alongside, but also just nice to have a friend on the coffee breaks, so he was amazing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's almost had like he's shot in this house, but he's almost kind of stayed all together as like a cast and crew. Did that sort of help foster that sort of atmosphere and sort of like, going back to what you said at the beginning, that kind of rare feeling of like the theatre world, almost, in a way that's sort of been taken into making this film?
I can't speak for the others. I'm sure it really did, because I was there for such a short amount of time, and we stayed in this lovely hotel which was all empty because of COVID, and it was fun. But for me, I guess it was such a sort of fleeting thing that I couldn't truthfully say that I got completely comfortable. But I knew in my heart that was what was going on, that I was having a little, insight into a very kind of ensemble unit, of people working together and living together and all being out in the Cotswolds and having a lovely time, doing lots of sort of night shoots and stuff like that, which always sort of bring people together because you have to get through them together, you know, and they're quite tough. And I feel like I mean, that was just what I perceived. Of course, I loved my time on it, but I was only there for 3 days, so you know.
And what were Jessie and Rory Kinnear like as scene partners and people to work alongside?
Well, that was great. I couldn't been, you know, like I said, I was so chuffed that I got to do a time. Actually, it was mainly cut. Me and Rory Kinnear had to zoom up the driveway in a police car, and he had to throw the brakes on the gravel, and it was very fun. And we ran round and sort of cuffed the naked man. But in the actual edit, you just see the sort of very end of that. But that's funny, that took, you know, half a day or whatever. The time scale on filming is so sort of it's really slow, I suppose. But they were really brilliant, and I think I feel like I learned loads. It was just a real eye-opener for me, and I literally loved doing my scene with Jessie because we could do it and then have a natter and a giggle between takes, and then we were setting up a different shot. And of course we were in that lovely house, so it was a nice place to chill as well, and we just had a good old catch up basically. So it was just about as warm and friendly a situation as you could hope for, so that was brilliant.
And as someone that clearly went to see a lot of James Bond films with their family, I'm sure it was a really proud moment for them. Then you're sharing a scene with Tanner from James Bond.
Honestly, yes, that was the big headline. Dad was very excited about that. I was like, yeah, it's so funny that I didn't know who's playing all the parts. I really was confused.
When did you see the sort of film for the first time? Was that with your family, or did you get to see it beforehand?
No, that was with my family. That's why it was so funny that my mum was there, because I really didn't know what to expect. And even though I'd read it, I would say definitely with the ending of the film, it was just a stage, or I don't know if you call it stage direction in a screenplay, but a stage direction, you know, a few lines of like, this will happen and this will happen type thing, which I just sort of skip over those bits a little bit, or not skip over, but I even remember reading it and being like, what does that mean? Because it was like written like something like peeling like an onion, or it was quite poetic the way it was written on the page. And so I was like, what does that mean? And I just sort of didn't think any more about it. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow, okay, that's what that means. I had no idea, but it was, you know, it was epic. We won't forget the occasion, you know.
What was your kind of interpretation of the movie, and did you have any sort of fun discussions with your family afterwards? Because it seems everyone's got a different take than everyone else when it comes to this film.
Well, I was just so with Harper that I saw it as a very personal journey. You know, I know that there's the wider kind of theme of, you know, just sexism, like you say, the different institutions that kind of have allowed it to permeate through society. But for me, I was just watching this psychological drama about a woman who had been in a really, really horrible relationship, and which had a really traumatic end. And it was her playing out her grief and her trauma, like it was like this catharsis, and it was after her to begin with, and then she just gets a hold of it. And I don't know if the blood on the ground at the end is her blood, if she was just chasing, you know, clouds in that car and ran it into and got a bump on herself, or I don't know if she killed anyone or any of those people existed. It could all have been that she went to that cottage to get to deal with what she's been through, and then at the end I felt like she did, and she dealt with it, and she kind of, I don't know, that's maybe a naive interpretation, but I was, that's what I kind of hoped for her happened.
That's the joy of film, isn't it? Every interpretation is as valid as the next, unless someone goes, "This is definitively what it means." But the amount of times someone at a critic could go, "Well, actually, I meant this," and it's like, "No, you didn't. We actually
Oh,
took it this way." So no, it's completely valid.
yeah.
Has it been interesting for you because like the film dropped last weekend, like finally in the UK, is almost this like brilliant counter programming to sort of the Jubilee celebrations, whereas like it's been out for quite a while in sort of America. What's it been like for you with like this is your first film to watch sort of like the reviews and reactions and of course like the takes come out from like America and then going, okay, it's finally made its way here to the UK, and then that sort of cycle begins again.
Yeah, it's so crazy, isn't it? Like, I I guess it was really, it feels like such a long time ago that I was there. I can't really think when it was, but um it almost took me by surprise when I started to see, posters and things, and I was like, oh man, it's coming, it's going to come out, um and then it was just, honestly, for me it was just really fun. Like, I, since I was little, I've always wanted to be part of something like this, so it was just fun to, my mum and dad, they're just typical, they look up everything, they're so on it, so they're literally sending me reviews before I even know, oh, Sessa, look at this, and 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 then gradually sort of friends started to send me things as well, and it's just fun. It feels like, just feels exciting. It feels fun to have been part of it, and I think I felt proud, really. And I was just like, oh, that's so lovely. Like, it's kind of not often in life that you get these, especially in our work. So you just have to really, I think, I just go for it. I tell everyone. That's one thing. I've got so many friends who I'll find out they were in something. I'm like, what? Why didn't you tell me you were in that? I'd watched it. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's like sort of life's too short not to be overdressed. I just feel like life's too short. If I'm in 10 seconds of something, I'm going to tell everyone, because it's a celebration. It's like, it's fun. We hold out, we sort of hang in there through so much of nothing, when nothing's happening, that when something does happen, this is such a cool film to be part of. I told everyone,
Quite
and
right.
I got into it.
And have you kind of noticed from sort of your reading, do you feel there's been a difference between sort of UK and American kind of reactions, or?
I honestly, I couldn't answer that. I really don't know. I feel like maybe, if anything, people have been more shocked in the UK than they were in America. I feel like people have been like, wow, this has got a really disturbing ending, or, oh my gosh, this film here. Whereas I feel like people, the reviews in America, from America, that I read, were sort of like much more thinking about the themes, and that was the main difference that I found. But that kind of surprised me, because I feel like nothing shocks the Brits, but
Clearly birthing multiple Rory Kinnears
Rory
is the
Kinnear has
cross
done
point.
it. Yeah.
We kind of pose this question to everyone having the show. Like, obviously, A24 like distributed this film, and what's your kind of opinion on them? And do you sort of have any highlights of their filmography?
Euphoria. This is something I've heard about. Every single person has said to me, "You need to watch Euphoria," and I'm the most massive Zendaya fan.
She's absolutely incredible.
Oh, she's my everything at the moment. I just think she's amazing.
And what's next for you that we should keep an eye out for? That's, as you mentioned, that some stage performances are coming up. Anything that we should keep an eye out for?
Yes, there's a really cool Netflix series called The Sandman.
Neil Gaiman and Alex Garland, you're going to be getting a reputation as like a genre performer.
I know. Well, I play a particular a fun prostitute. And yeah, so I'm so excited just to watch the whole thing, because I mean, just anything, like I say, kind of anything slightly geeky, I'm there. And I feel like this is a very intellectual kind of comic strip. Amazing. It's going to be beautiful, I think. So I can't wait for that. I don't know what episode I'm in, but
and people get to see you all around the world as well. Like that's your next step. Is like, at least I always find that fascinating with Netflix for people in performances. Like people can be on stage and screen, and sometimes it's so hard to find these few seconds that people win, or even roles that people have spent weeks performing on stage. And then you start a Netflix show, and it's like, oh, if you watch episode 8 thing, you can see all my scenes, etc. It's such a great calling card, I think, for actors.
oh, I think it's amazing. Yeah, that's so true. I don't think I've been on anything on Netflix yet, but it does feel like just the kind of platform, and so I'm quite excited. I think even my brother will see this one. And that's a real, if James sees it, well, I feel really like I've made it.
And where's the kind of best place to kind of keep up to date with sort of any work or things that you've got coming up on the horizon?
Well, I suppose on IMDb. I mean, I'm terrible. I have got Instagram, but I'm so sort of bad at, and basically updating it or things like that. But I'm trying to get better.
It's clearly another job for your mom to work on, like scene partner, like social media content creator. Like it's clearly the next step for her.
Yeah, she needs to get on that. Yeah, she's actually, yeah, she's getting more technical than me, I think, these days. But it took her a while. But yes, I suppose I've got my Instagram, but that's about it really. I mean, I've got a good feeling. I feel like it's going to be a good year because we're hopefully, touch wood, over the pandemic, and I feel like there's such an appetite for people to make work, get together and make work again. And I feel like there's a real energy in the air, and hopefully it will mean that lots of cool stuff gets made, and the theatres are all opening up again. And so I feel really excited for this, for the next sort of.
Well, it's been a pleasure to get together with you today to talk about like theater, film, and so on. So like I'm really excited for your performance coming up, and yeah, I look forward to Sandman and what's to come.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Lee. It was really fun chatting to you.